I'm 15 years old, and my name is Tessa. When I reflect on all that has transpired, I find it difficult to comprehend how much my life has changed in just 2 years. That's what happens when your entire universe is appended twice, I suppose. I was 13 years old when it all began. Mom was granted custody of our home after my parents' divorce. Naturally, I stayed with her. Dad consented to pay hefty alimony. On the phone, I once heard Mom boasting that she had finally received what she was due. Why did you and Dad split up? In those initial months, I questioned Mom many times, but she simply shook her head and responded with the same response. Your father made his choice, Tessa, she would remark in a stern, icy tone. He no longer desires to be a part of our life. He is unwilling to see you. You'd be better off accepting that. I couldn't accept anything that didn't make sense, though. How could my father, who gave me hours of school assistance and referred to me as his little scientific nerd, simply cease wanting to be my father? I sometimes found it so painful to think about it that I was unable to breathe. The emails then began to arrive. Every Christmas, I would receive an anonymous note, much like clockwork. Simple words of love and support, nothing fancy. My heart almost stopped when I first saw one. I was certain it was from Dad. Keep reaching for the stars. Sweetheart is a unique writing style. It was the same thing he said before bed every night. I didn't discuss the emails with Mom. I couldn't. The mere mention of Dad's name would cause her face to contort, as if she had just tasted something disagreeable. Mother left her work after the divorce. She said that she needed time to recover. But I'm not a moron. We were more than comfortable thanks to Dad's alimony payments. She claimed to be remodeling the house and attending yoga lessons throughout the day in an effort to discover who she was. Mark then entered the scene. Our home was immediately buzzing with conversations about blended families and fresh starts after Mom claimed to have met him at one of her yoga courses. Before I knew it, Mark and his children, Sarah, age 11, and Tommy, age 13, had moved in with us. Everything started to alter at that point. Mom changed totally, showing a lot of affection for Tommy and Sarah as if they were fragile china dolls. I would sit at the kitchen table feeling like a ghost in my own house as she spent hours cooking Tommy's favorite dishes and doing Sarah's hair. When I finally had enough, I explained, Mom, it's like you've forgotten I exist. She had a look on her face that I had never seen before, a mix of sympathy and irritation. Don't be self-centered, Tessa. Sarah and Tommy lost their mother when they were infants. They require more consideration and care. You have to realize that. You are now old enough. Mom developed an obsession with taking pictures of the family every weekend. With meticulous attention to detail, she would dress us up as though we were attending a fashion show. With these events, Tommy and Sarah would get new outfits, but I would have to settle with whatever color clothes I had in my wardrobe that matched theirs. Tessa, take a position behind Tommy. Go to the left, please. Mom would instruct you to try to smile more naturally, aiming her phone's camera at the ideal angle. Sarah, please tilt your head slightly. Perfect. Sometimes, these picture sessions lasted for hours, click after click, posture after pose, until Mom's social media profile looked just the way she wanted it. She would flaunt the findings at every family get-together, which was the worst part. She would brag to Uncle Pete or Aunt Karen, look at how many likes this one got. We appear to be the ideal family, according to everyone. Don't the children look fantastic together? You would never suspect that they weren't always related. As Mom boasted to anybody nearby about our lovely mixed family, I would stand there feeling like a prop in someone else's performance. Tommy pretended that I didn't exist, and Sarah would roll her eyes anytime I walked into a room. These pictures never captured the truth. The worst thing was being cut off from my dad's mother, Grandma Rose, not the constant posing or the artificial smiles. Mom was quite clear after the divorce that you were not allowed to visit her. Grandma would spend hours listening to me, not just pretending to while browsing through her phone. And I missed her warm embraces. All I could think of now was her giggle and the times I spent making cookies in her kitchen. I was forced to spend time with Mom's family instead, who fell for her ideal family story. As everyone gushed over Tommy and Sarah and complimented Mom on being such a wonderful stepmother, I sat in the corner, wondering if I had turned invisible. Mom and I were farther apart than the Grand Canyon as the months went by. Adapting everything to Tommy and Sarah's routines and tastes, she lived and breathed her new family. Tommy, what would you like to watch? On movie night with the family. Plans for the weekend. Sarah, honey, where should we go for lunch? My viewpoint had become irrelevant. During family conversations, I would sit there and watch Mom lean in excitedly to find out what movie Tommy was interested in seeing or what restaurant Sarah wanted to visit. Mom would be getting her keys, anticipating Tommy's choice of the latest superhero movie or Sarah's choice of the upscale ice cream shop across town, when I would occasionally open my lips to offer a recommendation. On a Sunday morning, I remained in my room as they prepared for another family trip. Nobody showed up to inquire why. I was not persuaded to join them. Through my door, I could hear Sarah's voice saying, "Good. We don't need to act like we're including her anymore." Mom said, "Silence." Summer came with a type of news that used to delight me as a child. Almost giddy with excitement, Mom and Mark brought everyone together in the living room one evening. "We have amazing news," Mom said, taking Mark's hand in hers. "We're planning a month-long trip to Europe." Both Tommy and Sarah cheered instantly. "Can we go to Paris?" Sarah gave a little squeak. "I want to see the Eiffel Tower." Tommy said, "And Barcelona as well. They have the best soccer stadium in the world." As I watched them bounce about the room like lottery winners, I sat on the couch. No one turned to see me. No one asked me if I would be interested in going to Europe for a month. I had the impression that I was watching a television program about a contented family, apart from mine. The trip's morning began early. I was reading my packing list again in my room when I heard a noise. Sarah was standing at my dresser, with a pair of scissors in one hand and my favorite blue bikini in the other when I looked up. She had a little smile on her lips as she methodically sliced through the cloth. I stood there stunned for a second. I was aware that Sarah disliked me. She had been rather explicit about it for the previous 2 years. But this was different. It was unkind. In an attempt to take the scissors out of her grasp, I sprang forward. "Give me those." After Sarah jerked back, we found ourselves battling for the scissors. She was surprisingly powerful for her size. She began to scream as loudly as she could while we fought. "Help! Tessa is assaulting me." The sound of footsteps roared up the steps. We were both red-faced and unkempt when Mom and Mark stormed into my room, the ripped bikini on the floor between us. "She tried to hurt me." With a cry, Sarah rushed to her father. "I was just standing here, and she went crazy." "That's not true," and I objected. "She was tearing my bathing suit to shreds." I wanted to stop her. Mom hardly paid attention to the shabby swimwear lying on the ground. "Tessa, what's the matter? Would you actually attack Sarah physically because you're so envious of her? Make your way to your accommodation and remain there till we head to the airport. It's obvious that you are untrustworthy around Sarah." Sarah went with them as they departed. Mom was soothing her, and I could hear it through my closed door. "Don't worry, sweetie. We'll go to the mall right now and buy you some new clothes to help you feel better after this awful experience." While they were leaving for their shopping expedition, I sat on my bed and stared at the bits of my damaged bikini. I wasn't asked whether I needed a new swimwear for the trip. It didn't matter that I was being honest. It got dark, and we all gathered with our bags in the lobby. Mark was packing the cab that was waiting, and Mom was doing one last check of her list. Mom gave me a chilly look and added, "I still think you don't deserve this trip after what you did to Sarah. However, you must come since we cannot leave you home alone for a month. Try not to cause any more issues, please." Everything inside the airport felt overpowering. Mom gave us all our paperwork as we headed to the check-in counter. The strain, the early morning, or something else I couldn't quite put my finger on was causing my stomach to turn over nervously. Mom, I whispered while moving uneasily. I need to use the bathroom. She searched through her huge handbag, not glancing at me. All well, but hurry quickly. You are the reason we can't miss our flight. Should I take my bag? While pointing to my carry-on, I questioned. Just leave it. She was adamant. I'm not having you wander off with our documents and money. Trying to make my way through the masses, I nodded and made my way to the restroom signage. Finding the restroom took longer than I had anticipated. There was confusion in the signage, and twice I had to turn around. It had probably been 10 minutes by the time I eventually located it and finished. But my family had left when I went back to the check-in area. I assumed I had gone to the incorrect counter at first. Mom, I screamed, my voice rising out of fear. Everyone looked at me, Mark, but none of them were relatives. I began to run, my feet pounding the gleaming airport floor as I looked around frantically. Perhaps they had already passed security, but how could I follow? All of my paperwork were in Mom's handbag. I could hear the thumping of my heart in my ears. It was in my backpack, therefore I didn't have a phone. No money. Mom also had that. No identification. There is no boarding pass. Not a thing. I dashed to the food court after returning to the check-in area and using the restrooms once more. I was searching feverishly, and every minute that went by made me more and more panicked. People were moving by me, carrying their bags, bidding their loved ones farewell, and going about their daily lives as usual, but my world was collapsing. After what seemed like hours, but was actually only one, I was finally unable to run. Surrounded by strangers, I stood in the center of the terminal and started crying. I cried with great gasps that rocked my entire body, not with calm, respectable tears. Are you all right, sweetheart? A soft voice interrupted my sobs. When I looked up, I saw a woman wearing an airport uniform with a worried expression on her face. Her question was, "Where are your parents?" I cried and spoke in ragged breaths as I attempted to explain. They went out. I simply went to the restroom. Everything I owned was taken by them. The woman's expression altered as she realized what I was saying. After placing her arm over my shoulders, she escorted me through a door that said airport personnel only. I was seated in a little office before I knew it, answering phones and answering questions from somber-looking individuals wearing security uniforms. The grimness on their features grew as they watched the surveillance tape. One of them was making notes in order to compile a formal police complaint. One cop told another, "It's confirmed," as I overheard. After checking in and waiting for her to go, they went to their gate and boarded their aircraft. They'd taken off already. With a softer tone, one of the policemen inquired, "Is there anyone we can call for you? Any adult relatives who could come get you?" I used the tissue they had given me to wipe my eyes. "My dad," I said softly. "I haven't seen him in 2 years, but I know his name and where he used to work." I heard them making calls in the adjacent room as they were taking down the information. I was sitting there, covered in a borrowed airport blanket, trying to keep my mind off the jet that was most likely already over the Atlantic, taking my mother and her actual family away from me, Tessa. I was unable to breathe as I looked up and heard a familiar voice. Dad was standing at the doorway, looking much like I recalled, but somehow different. He seemed exhausted and his hair had more gray in it. But his eyes were the same ones that used to search beneath my bed for monsters and light up when I showed him my science fair projects. "Dad?" My voice broke, and then I started to run as he held me in his arms like I was 7 again. And we both started weeping. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart," he told her again. "I'm so sorry." It felt unreal to drive to his apartment. I sat in his car's passenger seat and kept glancing at him out of fear that he might vanish if I turned my head too far. Now he resided in a big apartment complex I had never seen before outside of the city. "There's someone I want you to meet," he remarked as we went to the 8th level via elevator. "Say Lisa, my fiancée. She has been my pillar of support through it all." After taking one glance at me, Lisa, a kind woman with curly red hair, embraced me as if she had known me for ages. She murmured, "You poor thing," and ushered me into the kitchen. "You must be going hungry. I'm currently preparing a good supper for you. Don't argue." I sat at the kitchen table with Dad as Lisa busied herself cooking. The air was filled with the familiar scent of coffee. His drink was still black with a little sugar added. With his hands encircling his coffee mug, he eventually murmured, "Tessa, I think it's time you learned the truth about what happened 2 years ago. I got home from work early that day. A meeting had been canceled, but I wasn't meant to be there." His hands were trembling a little, but his voice remained solid. "Your mother and Mark were in our living room when I discovered them. They weren't only conversing. I realized what he meant, and my gut tightened. Mark made an effort to appear aggressive when I addressed them. We got into an altercation. It wasn't my proudest moment. I don't know who it is, but one of us accidentally shoved your mother as she tried to stand between us. She collapsed as we were battling and struck the coffee table very forcefully." Dad's voice echoed. Her hands were all scratched up, and her face was covered in blood from where she had struck it. I attempted to assist her, but before I could do so, she gave me a direct look and threatened to call the police if I didn't comply with her demands. She claimed she would show them the bruises as proof that I had beaten her. She threatened to put me in jail and prevent me from ever seeing you again. His eyes were filled with anguish as he gazed at me. She offered me the house, alimony, divorce, and the requirement that I avoid you at all costs. "Go away," he said. She said if I tried to contact you or tell you the truth, she'd follow through on her threat. The following morning, Lisa sat down beside me with a resolute expression on her face while I was nibbling at my breakfast at the kitchen counter. "Tessa," she replied, deliberately stirring her coffee, "my brother Michael practices family law. He's really skilled at what he does, and I believe he can assist us in your case." With a glimmer of optimism, Dad raised his head from his newspaper. "You think he'd take the case? Are you kidding?" Lisa took her phone out. "He was eager to come over as soon as I informed him what had transpired at the airport. The only thing he needs is our approval." After that, things happened pretty fast. Michael proved to be a tall man with the same red hair and lovely eyes as Lisa, but underlying his soft exterior lay steel. As I related my experience, he sat at the dining room table with me and took thorough notes. There he made several calls, his voice changing into what Lisa referred to as lawyer mode. In a matter of hours, he had submitted documentation to the Guardianship Authority and Child Protective Services. They instantly assumed control of the case. It seems that leaving your child at an airport attracts attention. Dad proposed that we go see someone special a few days later. He said, "There's someone who's been missing you like crazy," as we passed through communities we knew well. "Someone who never stopped asking about you." My heart almost stopped when we drew up to Grandma Rose's house. The ancient porch swing where we used to sit and sip lemonade, the yellow paint, and the flower pots in the windows all had the same appearance. Before we could even get to the front door, it flew open. Tessa. As soon as Grandma started crying, I was engulfed in one of her renowned bear hugs, which had a scent reminiscent of freshly laundered clothes and cinnamon. "Oh, my sweet girl, let me look at you," she said. We caught up on lost time, ate Grandma's amazing chocolate chip cookies, and browsed through old photo albums during the day. She showed me newspaper clippings of my schools on a roll listing that she had saved, as well as the birthday cards she had written but was unable to mail, which were safely stored in a drawer. Days stretched into weeks, and then a month before I realized it. According to their social media posts, Mom and her ideal new family were still in Europe and had the finest life possible. My account would be updated daily with fresh pictures of Mom and Mark enjoying romantic meals in Paris, Tommy at the Colosseum, and Sarah posing by the Eiffel Tower. Not a single message inquiring if I was okay, if I had a place to stay, or if I was safe was sent. Mom had everything I had, including my laptop, phone, and clothing, with the exception of what I was wearing at the airport that day. Apparently, though, that didn't worry her in the least. From Dad's computer, I would access my social media accounts and check that they were all active. They would remark on friends' postings, like other people's updates, and upload images. The small green dot next to my name indicated that I was online as well. But not a single "Hope you're alive" SMS message. Dad suggested that I wait at the home until they got back. As I listened to the cab arrive outside, I sat in the living room, my heart racing. Dad was waiting for the appropriate time, tucked away in Mom's home office. Through the front door, we could hear them talking and laughing about their incredible European vacation. They all rushed in, laden with luggage and shopping bags, as soon as the key turned in the lock. When they noticed me seated there, they froze. Mom responded, "Well, well," as she swiftly recovered and put on a smug look. Look who found her way home. As they dropped their luggage near the steps, Mark laughed. "You see, we assured you she would be all right." Dad left the workplace at that point. In an instant, Mom's smug look disappeared, to be replaced by disbelief and then rage. As she retreated against Mark, she said, "What the hell are you doing in my house? Get out right now." With a calm yet forceful voice, Dad maintained his position. "Karen, I'm here to explain how things will go. This time, Tessa will be with me forever. In addition to requesting full custody, I'm seeking to have your parental rights terminated. The court has already received the document." Mom's face became crimson, then white. "You can't do that." "I have and I can. And it's not just that." Dad's tone became harsher. "Additionally, there are criminal consequences for leaving a youngster unattended at an airport, which is known as child endangerment. You both face severe jail time for it." He gave Mark a stern look. "You." Mom's angry voice trembled. "After what you did to me, do you think anyone would believe you? I have photos of my wounds to this day. I'll let everyone know that you defeated me." At that moment, Dad did grin, but it wasn't a joyful one. "All oak. That old deception is already something my lawyer is ready for. But here's the point, Karen. You damaged your own reputation by delaying filing a police complaint. It was all captured on camera when you left our daughter at an airport. Our 15-year-old daughter was left alone without money, a phone, or identification for every single second you departed, boarded the airline, and enjoyed your holiday in Europe. What sort of mother would do that? We." Mom cast a frantic glance toward Mark, who appeared to be attempting to blend in. Dad went on to say, "No judge is going to believe your accusations now. Given everything you did, including the police report, the airport video, and the social media posts demonstrating that you made no attempt to ensure your daughter was safe. Karen, you're going to pay the price for revealing your genuine self." None of us anticipated how quickly the trial proceeded. According to Michael, it was because the evidence was so strong. The police report, the social media posts that showed them gallivanting across Europe while I was left behind, and the airport film. The judge made her ruling in a short amount of time. Mom's parenting rights were taken away. The alimony that Dad had been paying was immediately stopped. Being given complete custody of me seemed, to be honest, like a formal confirmation of what we all already knew. I would never return to that place. In addition to a fine that made Mark's face go white when the amount was revealed, Mom and Mark were both given a year of probation. Seeing them fidget in their seats gave me no satisfaction. I had no feelings at all. It seemed similar to witnessing the conclusion of a film about someone else's life. 6 months have passed since then. I'm now deciding which earrings to wear to Dad and Lisa's wedding next month as I'm sitting in my new room at their apartment. The dress we chose, which is pale blue like the summer sky, is hanging on my wardrobe door. Lisa asked me to be one of her bridesmaids. What transpired with Mom and her real family following the trial is unknown to me. They relocated. Aunt Jenny told me that, and when they found out what had occurred, they unexpectedly joined us, as did the majority of Mom's family. Aunt Jenny's harsh words, "Blood doesn't excuse what she did to you." Now, every Sunday, Grandma Rose joins us for supper. She always brings her wonderful chocolate chip cookies and fresh tales about Dad's early years, which make me laugh and him moan. We occasionally browse through old photo albums together. But these days we're also creating new memories by adding images of joyful occasions to new pages. After everything calmed down, I transferred to Riverside High. I had no intention of continuing to attend school with Tommy and Sarah. As it happens, that was the wisest choice ever. I never had the type of true friends at my previous school as my new pals, particularly Rachel and Kim do. Although they are not fully aware of the reasons for my relocation, they are aware enough to comprehend why I occasionally go silent when others discuss their mothers. Though it's more like thinking about characters from a novel I read a long time ago, I occasionally find myself thinking about Mom, Mark, Tommy, and Sarah. Those recollections have a remoteness to them, an unreality. I blocked them all on social media because I no longer needed to know, not because I was angry. I'm overplaying the phantom in their idyllic family portraits. According to my dad, I'm stronger than he was when I was his age. Perhaps he is correct, but I feel fortunate to have him, Lisa, Grandma Rose, and everyone else who taught me what true family is all about. People who support you, fight for you, and let you know you are loved. The air in the restaurant was alive with the sound of clinking glasses, laughter, and background music. The big dining table where my coworkers and I sat was bathed in a warm glow from the golden fairy lights hanging from the ceiling. Tonight was meant to be a great night for me, a celebration. Even though it wasn't part of my job description, I had given this organization my all for the previous 5 years, frequently staying late to solve problems no one else wanted to, and coaching less experienced staff members. For months, Richard, my supervisor, had hinted that I was the next in line for the senior management post. And they would announce my promotion tonight at this same gathering. I had pictured this moment in my mind innumerable times. The cheers, the pride, the approval. I looked around the table while adjusting the hem of my navy blue dress. As we celebrated the company's quarterly accomplishment, my crew was in a good mood. Richard stood at the head of the table and signaled attention by clinking his wine glass with a fork. The room fell silent. My pulse raced with excitement. His strong voice cut through the commotion. "Tonight," he said, "I want to take a moment to recognize someone truly exceptional. Someone who, throughout their brief tenure at the organization, has demonstrated extraordinary talent, drive, and devotion. Finding someone who can have such an influence in just 3 months is uncommon." My smile wavered. 3 months? Richard turned to Lisa, my colleague. "Lisa," he said, "you have surpassed our expectations in every way. We've all been pleased by your leadership, inventiveness, and problem-solving abilities, so I'm excited to formally announce your promotion to senior manager. Well done." Applause broke out throughout the room. My fingers were clasped around the stem of my champagne glass as I sat still. I forced a grin onto my face, and my throat constricted. Lisa arose, blushing and embracing her new title with grace, and I cheered with the rest. This was not taking place. Richard turned to face me as if he remembered me, and I felt my world tilt a little. He smiled. "And of course, Kathy, you've been such a valuable member of the team," he said. "We appreciate everything you do." That was it. A slap on the back for 5 years of arduous effort, a phony acknowledgement. My smile widened as I swallowed the lump in my throat. I raised my glass in a toast and remarked, "Of course, Lisa absolutely deserves it." Richard gave a nod of approval. "Kathy, she already does a lot more than you do. You ought to make notes." Laughter. With an unsteady laugh, Lisa mumbled, "Oh, I wouldn't say that." However, the words were already in the air, slapping me across the face. I shared their laughter. I mean, what else could I do? Weep? Beg? Ask him why he humiliated me after supporting me for months? No. Rather, I raised my glass to my mouth and sipped slowly. I grinned, spoke, and rejoiced as the evening wore on, but deep inside, a storm was building. I took out my phone as soon as the celebration was over, and I strolled outside into the crisp night air. As I sent a brief, straightforward email to HR, my fingers trembled a little. Subject: Submission of a resignation letter. Greetings, Richard. My official letter of resignation, effective immediately, is attached. Best regards, Kathy. I just paused for a second before sending. I inhaled deeply as soon as the email departed my outbox. I had an unexpected feeling for the first time in years. Relief. I wasn't finished yet, though. Richard was going to learn the real consequences of underestimating someone on Monday. It was an unusual Monday morning in the office. With my resignation letter in Richard's inbox, I entered through the front doors with a sense of peaceful contentment. He was unaware of what was about to happen. Everything appeared normal at first. The receptionist smiled broadly as she greeted me. My colleagues were conversing over their morning coffee near the break area. At her workstation, Lisa was already enjoying the aftermath of her significant promotion. Lisa hadn't done anything wrong, so I wasn't upset with her. The man in the corner office who had deceived me for months into thinking I was valuable and then thrown me out like I was nothing was the true issue. I settled down slowly, putting my suitcase next to my desk and turning on my computer. Richard should come to me. Just then, the door of his office sprung open. Kathy, my office now. The floor fell quiet. They looked at each other anxiously. Richard had never sounded so urgent, perplexed, and desperate to anybody. I carefully got to my feet, straightened my blouse, and entered his office. Behind me, the door snapped shut. My letter of resignation was already printed out and sitting at Richard's desk. He raised his head and scanned my face as though he was trying to determine if this was a joke. "You're leaving?" He sounded disbelieving. "Yes," I said as I folded my hands in my lap and sat down across from him. "Effective immediately." "But why? It's so abrupt. We didn't talk about this." I chuckled quietly. "We didn't discuss Lisa's promotion either, but here we are." He clenched his jaw. "That wasn't personal, Kathy. She just did better than you did. She has spent 3 months here." I tilted my head and answered, "But sure, if that's what you believe." Richard bent over. "You are aware of my gratitude, right? For the past 5 years, you have played a crucial role in our business. I'd rather not lose you." He spoke with such arrogance that I looked at him for a long time. "You don't want to lose me." I raised an eyebrow and repeated. "However, you had no trouble passing me over for a promotion that I had earned over the course of years. You had no difficulty encouraging me to take notes from someone who had just arrived. And you had no trouble laughing when I was embarrassed at my own celebration party." His typically arrogant confidence started to falter as his countenance changed. "Look," he murmured, stroking his hair. "Perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps I ought to have approached it in a different way. But you're leaving suddenly?" "Kathy, this is not the correct thing to do. You're making a sentimental choice." The warmth was gone from my smile. "That email was sent on Friday evening, Richard. I would have stormed out that same evening if this had only been feeling. However, I didn't. I'm leaving on my terms, and I planned this." On the desk, his hand balled into a fist. He had never lost before. His voice was stern now as he questioned, "So what's your plan? Go see one of our rivals? Because we have non-compete agreements, Kathy, and I must remind you of that." I chuckled once more. "Oh, he didn't know." I said, "I don't need to go to a competitor," and got to my feet. "You see, Richard, while you were busy ignoring my contributions, someone else wasn't." He scowled. "What do you mean?" I inhaled deeply, savoring the moment. "Do you remember Andrew Carter, the CFO you let go last year?" Richard stiffened. Naturally, he recalled. One of the company's most prized executives. Andrew has a history of conflict with Richard. Richard had evicted him because he believed he could be replaced. I went on. "Andrew reached out to me a few months ago. He wanted me to take the helm of the operations department, a director-level role, as he is launching his own business. At first, I declined him. I remained faithful to this business." I lowered my voice and leaned in a little. "However, everything changed on Friday night. He repeated the offer when I contacted him immediately after I left the party. I agreed." Quiet. Unadulterated shock. Richard gave me a look as if he was still processing the news. "You're leaving for Andrew's company." At last, he spoke in a strained voice. I said, I start next Monday. He let out a strong breath after opening and closing his mouth. Be sensible, Kathy. For 5 years, this business has been your home. We can figure something out. We can discuss. I don't want to talk, I said with ease. This decision is final. He gritted his teeth. You won't be able to come back. I grinned. I won't need to. I turned and made my way to the door. I stopped just before I left. It's funny how you only realize someone's worth when they walk away, I whispered over my shoulder to Richard. Then I left him to face the repercussions of his behavior alone as I went out, shutting the door behind me, and it was wonderful. I felt like everyone was watching me when I left Richard's office. There was an eerie silence in the open office. There was a heavy strain in the air in place of the normal Monday morning conversation. My coworkers had stopped even feigning to be at work, heads peered over the walls of the cubicles, and as soon as I looked them in the eye, they quickly looked away. They were aware that something had occurred, and they would find out exactly what it was in a few minutes. I calmly went back to my desk, opened my email, and sent my letter of resignation to the whole leadership team. Subject: Notice of official resignation. Effective: I am leaving my employment with the organization immediately. I will always remember that event. Best regards, Kathy. Easy. Expert. However, it was obvious what the underlying message was. I was done. The first murmur swept over the floor a few seconds later. Then another. Then another. The fire had started. It was not long before someone came up to me. Kathy, is it true? One of the few individuals I truly trusted in this place, Rachel, was there when I turned around. She appeared in disbelief. I smiled a little and nodded. Yeah, it's time for me to move on. She shook her head and let out a harsh sigh. Whoa. Simply said, wow. I understand. But I didn't anticipate that you would truly go. The words, neither did Richard, I whispered. She gave a half scoff, half laugh. Well, what a fool he is. You deserve the promotion, as everyone here knows. A couple more coworkers began to slink over to my desk, ostentatiously being busy while openly listening in. Lissa had even looked up from the other side of the room, her gaze flitting from Richard's office to me, as if she wasn't sure whether to feel relieved or guilty. I could feel her hesitancy. She didn't say what she wanted to say. To be honest, I no longer gave a damn. Richard sent me an urgent meeting request 10 minutes later, right as I was packing away the last of my personal belongings. Subject: Meeting to discuss. Immediate request. 15 minutes. Where? My workplace. I sighed after looking at the email for a while. Men in need act in ways that are desperate. I walked slowly back to his office. The door silently closed behind me as I entered. Richard had changed in appearance. The haughtiness had vanished. The arrogance had vanished. He seems to have just discovered that they had made a huge error instead. He said, Kathy, bending forward, let's discuss this. You're making a snap judgment. I chuckled quietly. I dedicated 5 years of my life to this firm, Richard. Yours was the only hasty choice made here. He made a tight line with his lips. Look, I acknowledge that I handled the promotion improperly, but we can work things out. Whatever Andrew is offering you, I'll equal it. I cocked my head. You don't even know what Andrew is offering me. He shot back. Does it matter? We'll work things out. I can increase your pay, give you more freedom, and perhaps even. I interrupted him by raising a hand. You don't get it, do you? Quiet. I bent over. Money was never the issue. It has to do with respect. His mouth tightened. Until I threaten to go, I don't want to remain in a workplace where my effort is disregarded. Being matched just when I'm already out of the door is not something I desire. Why should I think I'm valued to you now if I wasn't before? Richard's nose wrinkled a little. He wasn't accustomed to being out of control of the discussion. Be sensible, Kathy. For what reason are you leaving a secure position? Some new business that might not even make it? I grinned. My efforts are valued by the person running that startup. Additionally, I would rather gamble on myself than remain at a job that views me as expendable. I got to my feet. Goodbye, Richard. I left after saying that. It seemed unreal to pack my final belongings. A few coworkers gave me a little applause as I took my package to the elevator, which was their way of congratulating me on my silent triumph. They were aware. At last, Lisa found the strength to get up and approach me while still seated at her desk. Kathy, I didn't know. I arched an eyebrow. Didn't know what? She opened her lips, then shut it again. She was aware. She knew, of course. She had profited from my loss, even if she hadn't planned it. I responded, "It's fine, Lisa," without being rude. Enjoy the promotion. I was already inside the elevator when she winced. I breathed slowly as the doors slid closed. This was not the end of it. This was the start. On the Monday following my final exit from Richard's office, I stood in front of a modern glass building and gazed at my fresh start. Carter and Associates. Despite being smaller than my last one, Andrew's business was teeming with ambition and vitality. It was full of individuals doing more than merely maintaining a machine that had been built by someone else. They were constructing something. I felt something I hadn't felt in years as soon as I walked through the doors. Excitement. No more getting passed over. Don't be devalued any longer. No more Richard. My image in the mirror-like doors appeared different as I ascended to the top level of the elevator, more certain, more vibrant. This was not only a new position. This was liberty. I knew I had made the correct decision as soon as I entered my new office. A genuine office with floor-to-ceiling windows and a door that I could truly close. Meetings, onboarding, and introductions took up the morning, yet everything about it felt different than at my previous job. To begin with, folks here paid attention. Andrew turned to me and grinned at my first leadership meeting. "I want you to spearhead our new project, Kathy. You're the ideal candidate for our operations reorganization because of your experience." As simple as that. Don't beg. No repeatedly demonstrating my value. They were aware of my worth beforehand. I nodded, fighting the need to look around to see if this was a test of any sort. Simply, "I'd love to," I said. Some of my new coworkers gave me approving smiles. As though expecting no other response, Andrew nodded. This was the proper way to do it. No games, no politics, simply show respect. 2 days after my departure, the first indication that Richard's business was failing was this. There was a buzzing message from Rachel on my phone. Rachel. "Oh my God, Kathy. Richard is going crazy. Everything has been in disarray ever since you departed." Smirking, I continued to read. Rachel. "Since nobody can accomplish half of what you used to do, he had to convene an urgent meeting. It turns out that you do more than Lisa does. She has no idea what she's doing." I burst out laughing. Naturally. Richard had, of course, undervalued my skills and exaggerated Lisa's. Another message arrived. Rachel. "Well, and here's the thing. 3 clients have already contacted you and asked for your name. They weren't pleased when they learned that you had departed." A wave of satisfaction washed over me. After years of ignoring me, Richard was now learning what he ought to have known long ago. Some individuals cannot be replaced. My assistant peeked in that afternoon as I was going over strategy materials in my new office. "You have a call on line 1, Kathy. The business is known as Dawson and Company. They stated they wanted to talk about transferring their account over because they used to work with you." I blinked. One of my former company's largest clients was Dawson and Company. "Put them through," I murmured, maintaining a calm tone of voice despite my racing heart. The CEO, Mark Dawson, said in a voice I recognized a minute later. "Kathy," he continued, his voice heated. "You moved to Carter and Associates, I heard. Let's have a conversation." With a gradual smile on my face, I reclined in my chair. "Mark, of course. How may I help you?" 3 of the largest clients of my previous business contacted me within a week, all of them expressing the same displeasure. "Since you went, things have changed. We no longer believe that we are in capable hands. We would like to relocate if you are in charge of operations at Carter and Associates. So they did, one by one. I wasn't taking customers. I didn't have to. They trusted me, not the firm I used to work for, thus they were leaving on their own. Richard, too? He was fumbling. I continued getting updates from Rachel. Lisa is drowning, says Rachel. She is completely unprepared for this position. In a private meeting this morning, I'd overheard Richard shouting at the leadership group. Rachel, the client losses have infuriated the board. Investors are not pleased. They're reportedly pressuring Richard to make this right. Quickly. I could only picture his expression. The fear, the remorse. What's the best part? I had no intention of hurting him. I was simply flourishing in another place. Richard's email rang on my phone on Friday afternoon as I was wrapping up for the day. I'd opened it and arched an eyebrow. Subject? A suggestion. Kathy, I want to talk to someone. If you're amenable, I think we can reach a mutually advantageous agreement. Next week, let's schedule a meeting to go over our alternatives. I'm eager to hear from you. Richard. I chuckled quietly as I reclined in my chair. I had complete control for the first time in 5 years, and he was frantic. For a while, I gazed at Richard's email, allowing the absurdity of it to sink in. Now it was the man who had laughed at me, who had discarded me so casually, who had told me, Lisa does a lot more than you, who was extending his hand, and I understood why. His entire universe was collapsing. I took my time coming up with my response, simply controlled, with no sense of haste or desperation. Regarding a proposal. Richard, on Monday at 10 a.m., I am available for a quick meeting. If it works for you, please let me know. Best regards, Kathy. I closed my laptop after hitting submit. I entered the meeting to see him struggle, not to engage in negotiations. I entered the glass office building I had left behind weeks before at exactly 10 in the morning. It all felt different. Uncertain whether I was a visitor or a relic from the past, the receptionist paused before welcoming me. Every employee knew, so they snuck looks as I went by. Then I spotted Richard as I entered his office. The way he sat, the dark bags under his eyes, and the frantic tapping of his fingers on the desk gave him a dreadful appearance. The haughty guy who had disparaged me weeks before was no longer the same. His grin was forced. Thanks for coming in, he added. I crossed my legs, put my hands in my lap, and sat down. Obviously. What are you thinking about? Leaning forward, he let out a breath. I'll save your time. Kathy, we need you back. I remained silent, allowing the ironic remarks to linger in the air. I'll admit that I underestimated your role here. But if you come back, we can make this right, he said. I'm ready to give you a big salary, a senior executive position, and complete control over your department's decisions. Evidently expecting me to be impressed, he sat back. No, I wasn't. I cocked my head. All right, let me clarify. You had 5 years to respect my work, 5 years to see my worth, and 5 years to elevate me. After giving things some thought, I went on. However, you urged me to make notes on how to improve and passed me over for someone with 3 months of experience. And now that you've lost important customers and seen your business fail, you're giving me what I've always deserved. Richard's mouth clenched. Kathy, come on. I stopped him by raising a hand. I have a question for you. Would I still be here in this chair today if I never left? Are you simply making this offer now because you're losing control, or would you have extended it out of gratitude? His quiet was a powerful statement. I could see the truth in his eyes, despite his best efforts to hide it. It wasn't until it cost him everything that he realized my value. I gave a little giggle of amusement. That's what I thought. It was Richard's desperation. Kathy, think carefully about this. Here you have a past and a future. Would you truly like to discard all of the effort you have invested in this business? I grinned. Richard, you still don't get it, do you? I straightened my blazer and leaned forward a little as I got to my feet. You were never necessary to me. I was necessary to you, and you're finally understanding that now. I could see the flash of terror behind his eyes as his face darkened. I turned and started toward the door, but stopped short of going out. I said, "You should take notes, Richard," repeating what he had said. "Maybe next time you'll learn to value the people who actually make your company run." Then I left without turning around this time. It was going great back at Carter and Associates. The number of our clients had almost doubled. An increasing number of businesses were turning to us after fleeing Richard's sinking ship. Rachel then texted me one last update on a calm Friday afternoon, and it made me laugh out. "Rachel, Richard recently lost his job. He was ejected by the board. They were unable to bounce back from all of the client losses." I sipped my coffee while leaning back in my chair. Perfect. Richard had believed that I might be replaced. He was, it turns out. And me? I was just where I should have been.